Akira The Don.
He's got clout.
The web of life. Let me try from the first to indicate the point that we're aiming at. The point is this, that human consciousness is at the same time as being a form of awareness and sensitivity and understanding, it's also a form of ignorance. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. And because of this, it leaves out things that are terribly important. It leaves out things that would, if we did know them, allay our anxieties and fears and horrors. And if we could extend our awareness, you see, to include those things that we leave out, we would have a deep interior peace. Because we would all know the one thing that you mustn't know. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more, according to the rules of our particular social game. The one thing you mustn't know, that's really not allowed, that is the lowdown on life. And then the lowdown, on the one hand, means the real dirt on things. But the lowdown is also what is profound, what is mysterious, what is in the depths. And there's something left out. And our everyday consciousness screens this out in the same way that when you say you have weaving, you have, say, on this rug here in front of us, when the black finishes here, the black threads will go underneath and then appear again over here, then they'll go underneath the white and then they'll appear again over here, so that the back will be the obverse pattern of the front. Now, the world is like that. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more. Our sense organs are selective. They pick out certain things. They're receptive. For example, we have a small band, what you might call a spectrum of light, of sound, of tactile sensation, and so on, to which the human organism is sensitive. But we know that outside that small band, there is a huge range of vibrations to which we have built instruments that are sensitive. Things like cosmic rays, ultraviolet rays, gamma rays, hard X-rays, and so on. They're all outside the band of our spectrum. And obviously, there are things that are outside the range of our instruments. We may build a new instrument someday, which will evoke, bring into our consciousness other orders of vibration altogether, but yet, as yet, we don't know about. So you could imagine, you see, the universe is a vast system of vibrations and has infinite possibilities. The ordinary everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary, everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more. The ordinary, everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary, everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary, everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in. The ordinary, everyday consciousness that we have leaves out more than it takes in.
Given the triumphant academic setting here, an obvious question is how much of this work of adjusting our default setting involves actual knowledge or intellect. This question gets very tricky. Probably the most dangerous thing about an academic education, at least in my own case, is that it enables my tendency to over-intellectualize stuff.
To get lost in abstract arguments inside my head instead of simply paying attention to what's going on right in front of me. Paying attention to what is going on inside me. As I'm sure you guys know by now, it is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive instead of getting hypnotized by the constant monologue inside your own head. Maybe happening right now. 20 years after my own graduation, I have come gradually to understand that the liberal arts cliche about teaching you how to think is actually shorthand for a much deeper, more serious idea. Learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. It means being conscious and aware enough to choose what you pay attention to and to choose how you construct meaning from experience. Learning how to think. Learning how to think. Learning how to think. Learning how to think. Because if you cannot exercise this kind of choice in adult life, you will be totally hosed. Think of the old cliche about, quote, the mind being an excellent servant but a terrible master. This, like many cliches, so lame and unexciting on the surface, actually expresses a great and terrible truth. It is not the least bit coincidental that adults who commit suicide with firearms almost always shoot themselves in the head. The head. They shoot the terrible master. And the truth is that most of these suicides are actually dead long before they pull the trigger. And I submit that this is what the real, no bullshit value of your liberal arts education is. How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectable adult life dead. Unconscious. A slave to your head and to your natural default setting of being uniquely, completely, imperially alone. Day in and day out. That may sound like hyperbole or abstract nonsense. Let's get concrete. The plain fact is that you graduating seniors do not yet have any clue what day in, day out really means. Learning how to think. 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 Learning how to think.
Yeah, baby. That was David Foster Wallace. Make some noise for David Foster Wallace. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now stepping on the stage, we got our boy, the one and only, the good doctor himself.
We don't understand the world. Like, I do think the world is more like a musical masterpiece than it is like anything else. And things are oddly connected. Now, you know, I know that sounds new agey and it sounds metaphysical. I'm saying bluntly, this is speculative, right? I'm feeling out beyond the limits of my knowledge. I'm not willing to dismiss the mysterious. The mysterious. I'm not willing to dismiss the mysterious. I've experienced the mysterious in a variety of different ways, and it's very mysterious. Very mysterious. We certainly know that we're bounded by ignorance, and there's far more going on than we know or can know. We do. The problem is when you start to speculate, it's a projection of your imagination. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because knowledge advances through projection of imagination. But the problem is, you can see yourself reflected back at you, and then it's self-fulfilling. And so you can see what you want. The mysterious. The mysterious. I'm not willing to dismiss the mysterious. I've experienced the mysterious in a variety of different ways, and it's very mysterious. Very mysterious. The most ancient ideas we have about the nature of reality are predicated on a certain presupposition. And the presupposition is this. There's two fundamental modes of being that characterize reality. One is the absolute. And the absolute is the sum total of everything. So if you think about things in their most unbounded possible form, if you think of things in their infinite number of potential variations, you can think about that as one pole of reality. It appears classically that people have regarded their encounters with the absolute, which is all those multiple levels of being that are beyond your perceptual capacity, as equivalent to an encounter with God. The mysterious. The mysterious. I'm not willing to dismiss the mysterious. I've experienced the mysterious in a variety of different ways, and it's very mysterious. Very mysterious.
The thing is that we have been educated to use our minds in a certain way, a way that ignores or screens out the fact that every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out. Every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out. You see, it's as if you had a light covered with a black ball, and in this ball were pinholes. And each pinhole is an aperture through which the light comes out. So in that way, every one of us is actually a pinhole through which the fundamental light, that is the existence itself, looks out. So only the game we're playing is not to know this. To be only that little hole, which we call me, my ego, my specific John Jones, or whatever. Every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out. Every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out.
All of the high cultures and low cultures, primitive cultures and charming, simple cultures, great, big, enormous ones, have grown out of myths. They are founded on myths. And what these myths have given has been inspiration for aspiration. Now, where do these aspirations come from? They come from a very wonderful, childlike thing, fascination. You know, if you wanted to make money today, I'm no economist, but I'll bet the thing to do would be to invest your money in something like cameras. Things that people play with, things that they're fascinated by. Fascinations are the creations of new activities. And when we look at the old cultures, we can see all cultures have grown out of myth.
I said all
Cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration
for aspiration.
And some of it is very strange to see indeed. What is most fascinating to begin with is one's neighbor, particularly if the neighbor is a very strange-looking creature. Now think of man in the old days. He was a minority on the planet. And when he looked at his neighbors, they had 4 feet, they had horns, they had great woolly bodies. They were very strange playmates. Furthermore, he was eating certain of them, and they were rather dangerous. He had to arrange some kind of arrangement with his neighbor. And we know that the first religious rites and the first religious address, so to say, was to animals, their neighbors. These were the images of God. All cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded, was the first inspiration. And the divinities, like it, they played it. So, the original rituals, the hunting people danced buffalo dance. They were in covenant world. That through this covenant, the animals gave their bodies willingly to be eaten. Because only the body dies, the being comes back. If you return the blood of the animal to the earth, the life is in the blood. The earth is the mother of life, and the animal will be back next year. All cultures have grown out of myth. All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration for aspiration. Aspiration. People who lived then in the plant world, the world of the tropics, where nature was a plant world, they saw something else. They saw that out of rot, out of decay, there comes life. There comes life. And this notion that out of death comes life becomes a very important thing in the tropical cultures. And it led to what is a very powerful pattern of rituals. Rituals of human sacrifice, killing people, letting them rot, burying them, with the notion that out of this death there would come life. All cultures have grown out of myth.
I said all
Cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration
for aspiration. Aspiration.
all cultures have grown out of myth.
I said
All cultures, they are founded on myth. And what these myths have given has been inspiration
for aspiration. Aspiration.
Make some noise for Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell, that's from the album Songs of Mythology. Out now in Opiate Record stores, baby. Hey. And for this next one, I want to welcome back your friend of mine. Make some noise for the one and only Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. And a good friend.
Akira.
Frederick.
He's got clout.
Yeah!
This is from Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, of course, you probably know that he was the philosopher who announced the death of God. What he meant by that was that the fundamental metaphysics that underlie Western culture had lost their foundation. And that the consequence of that would be the disintegration of the idea of value itself. Especially of value hierarchies. He thought of the inevitable consequence of that, or one of the inevitable consequences of that, a dramatic move towards a doctrine of radical equality. See, because if value itself is destroyed, the value distinction between things, so that one thing is not any better than another, then there's no reason for hierarchies of virtue or of value. And so the equality doctrine is a logical outcome. So here's what he wrote about that.
Behold, this is the hole of the tarantula. Do you want to see the tarantula itself? Here hangs its web. Touch it so that it trembles. There it comes willingly. Welcome, tarantula. Your triangle and symbol sits black on your back. And I also know it sits in your soul. Revenge sits in your soul. Wherever you bite, black scabs grow. Your poison makes the soul whirl with revenge. Thus I speak to you in a parable. You who make souls whirl. You preachers of equality. You are vengeful. But I shall bring your secrets to light. Therefore I laugh in your faces. My laughter of the heights. Therefore I tear at your webs, that your rage may lure you out of your lie holes, and your revenge may leap out from behind your word. Justice. For that man be delivered from revenge. That is for me the bridge to the highest hope, and a rainbow after long storms. The tarantulas, of course, would have it otherwise. What justice means to us is precisely that the world be filled with the storms of our revenge. Thus they speak to each other. We shall wreak vengeance and abuse on all whose equals we are not. Thus do the tarantula hearts vow. And will to equality shall henceforth be the name for virtue. And against all that has power, we want to raise our clamor. You preachers of equality. The tyrannomania of impotence clamors thus out of you for equality. Your most secret ambitions to be tyrants thus shout themselves in words of virtue. Aggrieved conceit, repressed envy, perhaps the conceit and envy of your fathers, erupt from you as a flame, and as the frenzy of disorder. They are like enthusiasts, but it is not the heart that fires them, but revenge. And when they become elegant and cold, it is not the spirit, but envy that makes them elegant and cold. The jealousy leads them even on the paths of thinkers, and this is the sign of their jealousy. They always go too far. So their weariness must be lie down to sleep in the snow. Tarantulas. 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 Out of every one of their complaints sounds revenge. In their praise there is always a sting, and to be a judge seems bliss to them. But thus I counsel you, my friends, mistrust all in whom the impulse to punish is powerful. They are people of a low sort and stock, the hangman and the bloodhound. 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 Look out of their faces. Mistrust all who talk much of their justice. Verily, their souls lack more than honey, and when they call themselves the good and the just, do not forget that they would be Pharisees, if only they had power. My friends, I do not want to be mixed up and confused with others. Some preach my doctrine of life and are at the same time preachers of equality. And tarantulas, although they are sitting in their holes, these poisonous spiders, with their backs turned on life, they speak in favor of life, but only because they wish to hurt. They wish to hurt those who now have power, for among those, the preaching of death is still most at home. If it were otherwise, the tarantulas would teach otherwise. They themselves were once the foremost slanderers of the world, and burners, and heretics. I do not wish to be mixed up and confused with these preachers of equality.
Jordan B. Davis. What is this mystery?
Akira.
He's got close.
Many of you, I'm sure, have heard the saying that mythology is other people's religions. Now I'm going to ask you to put yourself in other people's shoes and have a look at your own as mythology.
Yeah.
As mythology. What is this mystery that makes the human species bow before some sign of mystery? What is this mystery that makes the human species bow before some sign of mystery? Nietzsche has said, this is the age of comparison. It works on all levels. And in the realm of what I'm calling mythology, which many people call religions, there are cross-influences operating today that would have been thought impossible 100 years ago. Furthermore, it's good to recall, to remember, that our cultures and our races are very, very late arrivals in the history of the human species. And we already have very interesting evidence of religious or mythological practices in races long antedating ours. For instance, in the high Alps that were discovered in the 20s in very small caves right below the ice level of the glaciers, little shrines containing the skulls of cave bears. Now, during the course of the last glaciation, the Würm glacial period, those caves were covered with ice. No one could have gone there. And after the time of that glaciation, there were no cave bears in the world. So these little shrines with these cave bear skulls and little fires and little instruments of showing that there had been worship practiced there date from 200,000 years ago.
Yeah.
200,000 years ago. What is this history that makes the human species bow before some sign of mystery? What is this history that makes the human species bow before some sign of mystery? What is this history? What is this mystery?
Happy birthday, Terence McKenna.
The way I think of the psychedelics is they are catalysts to the imagination. They were back 100,000 years ago. The imagination, which was just this glimmering, this iridescence on the surface of ape cognition, was under the influence of the reciprocal feedback of self-reflection that is created by watching your own mind. Watching your own mind. Watching your own mind. Watching your own mind. Because it has suddenly become interesting, because it has suddenly been flooded by a psychoactive amine, that iridescence has been coaxed into language, art, architecture, music, poetry, the whole ball of wax. But now we know these things. We can uncover the secret of our origin. I'm very keen for the notion of what I call the Archaic Revival. And the Archaic Revival is this overarching metaphor that is the way for us to go to save our necks at this point. When a culture gets into trouble, instinctively what it does is it goes back through its own past until it finds a moment where things seem to make sense. And then it brings that moment forward into the present. The Archaic Revival brings that moment forward into the present. The Archaic Revival brings that moment forward into the present. The Archaic Revival brings
This notion that out of death comes life becomes a very important theme in the later religions of the world. He who loses his life shall find it is a spiritualization of this idea. But then, when the first cities appear in Mesopotamia, about 3000 BC, large communities grow up based on agriculture. Planting has to take place a certain time, reaping a certain time, and there are professional priests watching the heavens who know when those times were, when those times came. And those men became aware of the movement of the planets through the fixed stars. And they calculated and recognized that these planets were moving in mathematically inevitable courses. And the idea came into being. Men became aware of the movement of the planets through the fixed stars, of a cosmic order, of mathematical precision. Men became aware of the movement of the planets through the fixed stars. The neighbors now were the stars and the planets. Yeah! On and on. As the day comes and goes, the year comes and goes, the eons come and go. And the whole society must go into accord with that. This idea that the human society should reproduce the heavenly order comes in. The neighbors now are the stars, and this still lives with us in our religions. All of our religions have inherited this motif from the old Babylonian world. It went out with the higher civilizations to India, to China, even across the Pacific to Mexico and Peru. And you see these great towers, these great temple towers that represent the mountain of the world. It's the axis of the world around which the world turns, as it does around the pole star. The whole world and society and the individual in it are like the planet. It's moving in a great course. Society and the individual in it are like the planet. It's moving in a great course. Men became aware of the movement of the planets through the fixed stars, of a cosmic order, of mathematical precision. Men became aware of the movement of the planets through the fixed stars. The neighbors now were the stars and the planets.
Deep in the human unconscious is a pervasive need for a logical universe that makes sense. Sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. But the real universe is always one step beyond logic. One step beyond logic. One step beyond logic. There is in all things a pattern that is part of our universe. It has symmetry, elegance, and grace. Those qualities you find always in that which the true artist captures. That which the true artist captures. You can find it in the turning of the seasons. That which the true artist captures. In the red sand traits along a ridge. In the branch clusters of the creosote bush. Or the pattern of its leaves. We try to copy these patterns in our lives, in our society, seeking the rhythms, the dances, the forms that comfort. things a pattern that is part of our universe. It has symmetry, elegance, and grace. Those qualities you find always in that which the true artist captures. That which the true artist captures. You can find it in the turning of the seasons. That which the true artist captures. Yet, it is impossible to see peril in the finding of ultimate perfection. Ultimate perfection. Ultimate perfection. Peril in the finding. It is clear that the ultimate pattern contains its own fixity. In such perfection, all things move towards death. There is in all things a pattern that is part of our universe. It has symmetry, elegance, and grace. Those qualities you find always in that which the true artist captures. That which the true artist captures. You can find it in the turning of the seasons. That which the true artist captures. The world is supported by four things: the learning of the wise, the justice of the great, the prayers of the righteous, and the valor of the brave. But all of these things are as nothing without a ruler who knows the art of ruling. Make that the science of your tradition. All life is in the service of life.
Make some noise for Danica XIX, Frank Herbert, from that Dune Wave.
What would be the forms of culture that we would say to be necessary?
Yeah, we will dedicate this to Roger Scruton. Rest in peace, Roger Scruton.
The forms of culture that we would say to be necessary or most inclined to foster in the individual, that glowing of the flame.
I think the most accessible form for most people is music. And music, to me, is the most representational form of art, because I think that the world is made out of patterns. And we perceive some patterns as objects, but fundamentally it's patterns. And what you want is all the patterns of the world to interact harmoniously in something where every element is related intelligibly to every other element. And I think that when your life is in harmony, then you can feel that. When you're dancing to beautiful music, you're acting that out. The music is the music of the spheres, and you're participating in the patterning of your being in accordance with that structure, and that gives you an intimation of transcendence. Music is everything. Music is everything. It's not criticizable. That's the thing that's so lovely about it, is even as our society has become more cynical and more self-destructive and more deconstructionist, the power of music has in fact grown. Because it speaks to that eternal harmony. And the reality of that eternal harmony in a way that mere intellect cannot deny. And I mean, I was always amused. I went to this show, the Ramones, a punk band from New York. It was the loudest concert I'd ever heard by a good factor of 10. My ears rang for like 3 days afterwards. There were all these like nihilistic punk rockers all crammed into this theater, and below me there was a mosh pit. It was like ants on a frying pan. And they were just smashing into each other and throwing people around up above them, and it was quite rough. And they were all having this beautifully transcendent musical experience which belied all of their nihilism.
And you absolutely thrived on it. It's like even
the lyrics were harsh and nihilistic, but it didn't matter because the music in its rough form was something that united them in patterned beauty and brought them together. And so exposure to music, people die without music. It's like music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything.
Make some noise to yourself. You think it was over? It ain't over. It ain't over, baby. We're investigating this mystery. This is a mysterious planet, and we are mysterious beings.
Another way of talking about the web is that there are different levels of magnification. For example, supposing you take a piece of embroidery, and here it is, obviously in front of you, an ordered and beautiful object. Then you take out a microscope, and you look at the individual threads. At a certain point, as you turn up the microscope, you'll get a hopeless tangle. It doesn't make any sense at all. The wrapped fiber that constitutes the thread is a mess. Hasn't been organized, nobody did anything about it. But at the level of magnification at which you actually see it with the naked eye, it's all been organized. It's all been organized. It's all been organized. It's all been organized. All right, now keep turning up that microscope. Take one of those individual threads in the fiber that seems to be so chaotic, and go into the constitution of that. And again, you will find fantastic order. You'll find the most gorgeous designs of molecules. Then keep turning it up. And again, at a certain level, you'll find chaos again. All right, keep going. And at another level, you'll find this marvelous order. Now you see, order and randomness constitute, in other words, the warp and the whoop. Where everything is in order, everything's under control. In randomness, it's all been organized. It's a mess. 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 But we wouldn't know what order was unless we had messes. It's the contrast of order and messes that order itself depends upon. And so in exactly the same way, it is the contrast of On and off, there and not there. In other words, life and death, being and non-being, that constitutes existence. Only we pretend that the random side of things, the disorderly side of things, could possibly win in the game of competition, or I would rather call it collaboration between the two. When you lose sight of the fact that the order principle and the random principle go together, that's exactly the same predicament as losing sight of the fact that all individually delineated things and beings are connected underneath. You know, just like mountains stick out of the earth and there's the fundamental earth underneath them. So all of us, as different things, we stick out of reality. And there's a continuity underneath, but you ignore that. See, that's the thing that's left out. It's all been organized. It's a mess. 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 See, I'm just giving you many examples of the same principle.
Make some noise, smash that like, smash that like. We got Alan Watts in the house, and now we got Terence back in the building. Let's go.
One scenario for solving our problem is a mass migration into the past. We could literally dump this whole scene and go 100 million years into the past of the planet, then set up there in a confined zone. If it were only 10,000 years deep, it would never show in any fossil record. If we held ourselves to a 10,000 year wide window, that's such a brief period of time and so long ago that we would basically just appear to have disappeared. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Every solid body in the solar system is heavily cratered. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Some of these craters are planet smashers. There is considerable and ever-increasing evidence that the cosmic neighborhood is fairly unstable. Is it possible that biology is somehow prescient, that biology somehow exists in eternity and knows the fate of the planet, and that what we are is a desperate strategy of escape, and that the planet actually can sense the possibility of a complete life-destroying asteroidal impact? I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. Every solid body in the solar system is heavily cratered. I think this is a haunted planet, and we are a haunted species. A species, a bipedal monkey with binocular vision, has been led into the antechamber of nature's secrets. in order to build machineries and unleash energies sufficient to either deflect that incoming object or flee the planet in anticipation of it.
Make some noise to Terence McKenna! Haunted Planet from the Time Wave album. Time Wave. The Wave. What's Grant Morrison say about time? Time is soil that you build universes in. Yeah. Yeah.
It isn't merely that your fate depends on whether or not you get your act together and to what degree you decide that you're going to live out your own genuine being. It isn't only your fate. It's the fate of everyone that you're networked with. There's 7 billion people in the world, and who are you? You're just one little dust mote among that 7 billion, and so it really doesn't matter what you do or don't do, but that's simply not the case. It's the wrong model, because you're at the center of a network. You're a node in a network. You're a node in a network. You're a node in a network.
Node
in a network. You'll know 1,000 people, at least over the course of your life. And they'll know 1,000 people. And that puts you one person away from 1 million. And 2 persons away from 1 billion. And so that's how you're connected. And the things you do, they're like dropping a stone in a pond. The ripples move outward. And they affect things in ways that you can't fully comprehend. And it means that
the things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think. More important than you think. Far more important than you think. The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think.
The terror of realizing that is that it actually starts to matter what you do. And you might say, well, that's better than living a meaningless existence. It's better for it to matter. But I mean, if you really ask yourself, would you be so sure?
The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think. More important than you think. Far more important than you think. The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think.
You have the choice. I can live with no responsibility whatsoever. The price I pay is that nothing matters. Or I can reverse it and everything matters. But I have to take the responsibility that's associated with that. It's not so obvious to me that people would take the meaningful path. You know, when you say, well, nihilists suffer dreadfully because there's no meaning in their life and they still suffer. Yeah, but the advantage is they have no responsibility. So that's the payoff, and I actually think that's the motivation. Say, well, I can't help being nihilistic. All my belief systems have collapsed. It's like, yeah, maybe. Maybe you've just allowed them to collapse because it's a hell of a lot easier than acting them out. And the price you pay is some meaningless suffering, but you can always whine about that and people will feel sorry for you, and you have the option of taking the pathway of the martyr, so that's a pretty good deal, all things considered, especially when the alternative is to bear your burden properly and to live forthrightly in the world. If you live a pathological life, you pathologize your society. And if enough people do that, then it's hell. Really. Really.
The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think. More important than you think. Far more important than you think. The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think. Far more important than you. Than you think. The things that you do and you don't do are far more important than you think. More important 20th century.
Make some noise for Jordan Peterson. Make some noise for Jordan Peterson. We got Alan Watts back in the building now. Let's go.
You know the old question. If a tree crashes in a forest and there is nobody around to hear it, is there a noise? This question has been discussed in many futile ways. But noise, basically, is a state of affairs that requires an eardrum and an audio nervous system behind the eardrum. When the tree falls, it makes the air vibrate. If there is anywhere around an ear with the appropriate nervous system, there will be a noise. Because noise is a relationship between motion in the air and ears. If there is not any ear around, there won't be any noise, although there will be vibration in the air. And if there is some instrument around, such as a microphone attached to a tape recorder, there will be noise. There will be a vibration. There will be light. In the darkness. In the same way, let's suppose the sun sends out light into space. Now, the space surrounding the sun will be black darkness, as if there were no light in it, unless a planet happens to float by. When a planet floats by, there will be light. In the darkness. But if there isn't anything to relate to the sun in that way, then comes no light. Now this goes right down to the root and ground of everything. It goes down to the essence of your nerves, your whole being. That it's all an interdependence. There will be noise. There will be a vibration. There will be light. In the darkness. There will be noise. There will be a vibration. There will be light. And that's why one of the basic symbols of the universe is the Chinese Yin-Yang symbol, which you know is a circle with an S curve in the center. One side of the S is black, the other is white. So it makes, as it were, two commas or two fishes. And the eye of the fish is the opposite color. The white fish has a black eye, the black fish has a white eye, curling in on each other. Now this thing is called a helix. And that is the fundamental form of the galaxies, the great nebulae we see out in space. And this is basically too the position of sexual intercourse. This is lovemaking. And this is, you know, when you hold hands and so on. This is it. This is it. There will be noise. There will be a vibration. There will be light. In the darkness.
In the darkness.
There will be noise.
There will be
a vibration. There will be light.
There will be light.
In the darkness.
In the darkness.
two are secretly one.
What's the answer to the meaning of life? Here's an answer. I was trying to solve this terrible puzzle about how it was that human beings got themselves in such a tangle about what they believed. Such a tangle that we were pointing the ultimate weapons of destruction at one another, which, by the way, we are still doing. I thought, okay, well, I understand that. We need our belief systems. They orient us. And that means there will be conflict between belief systems, and that can be a catastrophe. And that's being played out everywhere, again, in very many ways. What's the solution to that? Well, one possibility is there's no solution. It's just mayhem all the way around. Could be the case. But it seemed to me, as I delved into it, that the proper solution to that was to live properly as an individual.
You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. God only knows where you are. And the final analysis. You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. You're blind to your own weaknesses, but you're also blind to your own strengths.
And so then I think, well, if you got your act together, it'd be better for you, and instantly it would be better for your family, assuming they wanted you to get your act together, and not everyone does. And then it would be better for the community. Like, how far could you take that? If you stopped wasting time, and if you stopped lying, and if you oriented yourself to the highest possible good that you could conceive of, and you committed to that. How much good could you do? Well, I would say, why don't you find out? So, that's what I think you should do. You should find out.
Yeah. You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. God only knows where you are. And the final analysis. You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. You're blind to your own weaknesses, but you're also blind to your own strengths.
Maybe you could sort yourself out so that you wanted nothing but the good. And then maybe you could help make that manifest in the world. Maybe we wouldn't have all these terrible problems then. At least we'd have fewer of them, and that would be a start.
Yeah.
And that would be a start. And that would be a start. And that would be a start. The answer to the problem of humanity is the integrity of the individual.
You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. God only knows where you are.
Analysis.
You're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful. You're blind to your own weaknesses, but you're also blind to your own strengths.
That's the answer. So, and then you think, well, what's the barrier? And the barrier is, are you willing to accept the responsibility? And part of the answer to that is, reduce the damn responsibility until it's tolerable. You don't have to fix everything at once. You could just start by fixing the things that you could fix. You could do it with even less self-sacrifice. You could start by fixing only the things that you want to fix. God, you can get a massive way that way. Oh, do it. See what happens. That's what you should have been taught right from the beginning. Aim at the highest good. Tool yourself into something that can attain it. And go out there and manifest it in the world. Everything that comes your way will be... Everything that comes your way will be a blessing. Everything that comes your way will be a blessing. Everything that comes your way will be a blessing. Everything that comes your way will be a blessing.
everything that comes your way will be a blessing. A blessing. But still, there remains the question.
I think life is tremendously tenacious and has an immense capacity to organize itself to meet any crisis, provided it knows it's coming. There are scars on this planet, enormous scars. There's a scar 1.5 billion years old on the Canadian Shield that is twice the size of the lunar crater Copernicus. What is going on? 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 This thing that came down 50,000 years ago out near Flagstaff, Arizona, that was a tiny object. It was something like 30 meters across. It was moving 9 times the speed of a rifle bullet. It was 6 miles into the earth in the first second of impact. Everything within 800 miles died instantly. And this was a nothing burger, this thing. An object 500 meters across the planet would ring like a gong for 10,000 years. The thing which killed the dinosaurs, they now believe they have the impact point. At the time of the impact, the entire area was a shallow ocean. But what I find eerie about the location of this impact point is 65 million years afterwards, on this exact spot, a civilization will arise obsessed with the end of time. A civilization will arise obsessed with the end of time and determined to give a date to it. It's within 110 miles of Chichen Itza. It's near Zebel Chaltun. It's right in the heart of classic Maya country. What is going on? 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 What is going
on? Make some noise for Terence McKenna.
His body and his parts are a river. Yeah. Everything is just an impression, said the cynic, and the response is obvious enough. But the point is a useful one, if you take it for what it's worth. The soul of man does violence to itself first, when it does its best to become an abscess, a kind of detached growth from the world. To be vexed by anything that happens is a kind of succession from nature, which compromises the nature of all things. To be vexed by anything that happens is a kind of succession from nature, and it compromises the nature of all things. The soul of man does violence to itself when it turns its back on another, or sets out to do harm, as the souls of the angry do. When overpowered by pleasure or pain, when it puts on a mask and does or says anything insincerely and untruly. When it allows its action, an impulse to be without a purpose, to be random and disconnected. Even the smallest things ought to be directed towards a goal of a rational animal. Follow the reason and law of the gods. Momentary, nature, changeable, perception, dim, conditioned body, decaying, spinning around, fortune, unpredictable, lasting fame, uncertain. The body and its parts are a river, soul is a dream of me. Life is warfare, a journey far from home. After fame is oblivion. Your body and its parts are a river. Soul is a dream and mist. Life is warfare, a journey far from home. After fame is oblivion. only philosophy, which means keeping the demon in man, free from violence and unharmed, superior to pleasure and pain, doing nothing without purpose. No hypocrisy, randomly or dishonestly, not dependent on any man, doing or not doing anything, except what's happening. I know there's a lot that is coming from thence, and above all that it accept death and a cheerful spirit. And there's nothing but the dissolution of that from what it is made. If it doesn't hurt the individual elements to change continually into each other, why are people afraid of avoiding changing, separating? It's according to nature, and nothing's evil, it's according to nature. Nothing's evil, it's according to nature. Hey! Body and his parts are a river, soul is a dream in this. Life is warfare, a journey far from home. After fame is oblivion. The body and his parts are a river, soul is a dream in this. Life is warfare, a journey far from home. After fame is oblivion.
is part of its liveliness. The poets, in speaking of the transience of the world, always utter their best poetry. You know.
Our revels now are ending. These our actors, as I foretold you, are all spirits, and are melted into air. The baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great earth itself, by all which it inherits shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made of. We are such stuff as dreams are made of. We are such stuff as dreams are made of. And our little life is rounded asleep. And said so well, it doesn't seem so bad after all, does it? You see, there's always in the poetry of evanescence a kind of funny nostalgia. Moralists will say, those lovely lips which you so delight to kiss today will in a few years rot and disclose the grinning teeth of the skull. So what? The skull says, lying in the grass, chattering finch and waterfly are not merrier than I. Here among the flowers I lie, laughing everlastingly. No, I may not tell the best. Surely, friends, I could have guessed. Death was but the good king's jest. It was hid so carefully. The Hindu divide life into certain stages, what are called the ashramas. The first is called brahmacharya, the second grihastha, and the third vanaprastha. Brahmacharya means the stage of the student, the apprenticeship. Grihastha, the stage of the householder. And vanaprastha, the stage of the forest dweller. This is related to cultural history of early India. Before we have agrarian communities, we have a hunting culture, which is on the move. In a hunting culture, every male knows the whole culture. There is no division of labor. And the holy man of the hunting culture is, of course, called a shaman. A shaman is a realized man, a man who knows the inner secret. He's seen through the game. And he finds it by going away alone into the forest and cutting himself off from the tribe. That is to say, from social conditioning. And he goes maybe for a long period into the forest and comes back. He's found out who he is. And he sure isn't who he was told he was. But as hunting cultures settle into agrarian patterns of life, what do? They build a village. And around the village they set up a stockade, which is known as the pale. And the village is always, of course, standing at crossroads. And there you get in an agrarian society a division of labor. And the division of labor comprises four. In medieval Europe, we call them lords spiritual, lords temporal, commons, and serfs. In India, they are Brahmins, Kshatriya, that means fighters, Vaishya, merchants, traders, Shudra, laborers. So you've got the priests, the warriors, the merchants, and the laborers. Division of labor. The four sections of town. So the four basic castes. So when you are born into a caste, and your duty as a grihastha or householder is to fulfill your caste function and to bring up a family. When you've done that, you go back to the forest, back to the hunting culture, and you drop your role, and you become nobody, a shaman again. So a Hindu calls one who does this a shaman, which is of course the same word as shaman, and the Chinese call him a xia. A shaman is an immortal. Why immortal? Because it's only the role that's mortal. The big front, the persona. The one who you really are, the common man, that is to say the man who is common to us all, which you could call the son of man. That's the real self. That's the guy who's putting on the big head. And of course he has no name. Nobody can put the finger on it. Because you can't touch the tip of the finger with the tip of the finger.
Make some noise for Adam Watts. Make some noise for yourself. This will be the last song.
Hey! Yeah! Meaningwave live across the galaxy.
I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted to. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted to. And you would of course be able to alter your time sense and slip, say, 75 years of subjective time into 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You would, I suppose, start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You could design for yourself what would be the most ecstatic life. Love affairs, banquets, dancing girls, wonderful journeys, love affairs, banquets, dancing girls, wonderful journeys, gardens, music beyond belief. Music beyond belief. Music beyond belief. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. And then after a couple of months of this sort of thing at 75 years a night, you'll be getting a little taste for something different. You would move over to an adventurous dimension where there were certain dangers involved from the thrill of dealing with dangers. And you could rescue princesses from dragons and go on dangerous journeys, make wonderful explosions and blow them up. Eventually get into contest with enemies. And after you've done that for some time, you'll think up a new wrinkle to forget that you were dreaming, so that you would think it was all for real, and to be anxious about it, because it'd be so great when you woke up. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. And then you say, well, like children who dare each other on things, how far out could you get? What could you take? What dimension of being lost, of abandonment of your power, what dimension of that could you stand? You could ask yourself this, because you know you'd eventually wake up. After you'd gone on doing this, you see, for some time, you would suddenly find yourself sitting around in this room with all your personal involvement, problems, etc., talking with me. How do you know that's not what you're doing? Could be. Because after all, what would you do if you were God? I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. Any dream you wanted. I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted. If you had the power to dream any dream you wanted to. What you would do if you had the power to dream any dream you wanted to. Any dream you wanted to. Any dream you wanted to.
you do if you were God? What would you do if you were God? What would you do if you were God? Hey! What would you do if you were God? What would you do if you were God? What would you do if you were God? Hey, yo! Make some noise! Hey, damn son!